Aloha from London. This is Aloha Friday, where greatness is made casual. I'm your host, Shane Austin, and I don't have my co-host with me, Dave Austin. It's a little different show since I am in London and I am here on my honeymoon. We're doing things a little differently, but I wanted to share some things from the actual, some stories that have happened. One thing in Scotland in particular that really was a lesson for me, and I want to be able to use that as the content for today's show. And then Dave, I would love to see your response to this video since we can't go split screen. We can, but I think the Wi-Fi is not quite strong enough. So, and if anybody is watching, let me know in the comments if I'm even coming through, because the Wi-Fi is iffy here, and we just got to London, so I'm not even sure what to expect. So even if you've ever been to London, let me know. If you had any recommendations, we got the whole weekend here. We're going to a soccer game on Sunday, and we're going to go to a show on Saturday. But other than that, we got a pretty open itinerary. So if anybody's ever been to London before, let us know. Any recommendations, we'd love to hear them. But now I want to go back to Scotland. Now, again, I usually have the trivia of the day. We usually have the quote of the week, the queek. A little different today. No trivia questions. I actually don't even have a quote of the week this week. First time I've ever not had a queek in a long time. So if anybody's got a queek that they'd like to share, let me know. But I want to go back to Scotland. Past few days we were in Scotland. We were driving all the way around. We even drove at night around Loch Ness. Didn't see the Loch Ness Monster. But I'm sure he's still out there. If you got any believers in the Loch Ness Monster, let me know. Then finished in Edinburgh, which I just figured out how to pronounce. Thought it was Edinburgh at first, then Edinburgh. None of those are right. It's Edinburgh. Apparently, that's how you pronounce it if you're a true Scotsman. But the thing that was like the highlight for us, and the thing I was looking forward to the most, was the Isle of Skye. And it's it's a pretty large island off the west, like kind of northern west coast of Scotland. And the Isle of Skye is absolutely beautiful. If you've never been there, or if you have been there, it is just a gorgeous place. And it was the thing I was probably looking forward to most when it came to our trip. So the reason I packed our drone, we have a travel drone. It's very small, but it gets some great shots. And that was really the main reason why I packed the drone for the trip, because it does take some space in the luggage. There's definitely a decision. Do we, how much space do we want to have in the luggage? How much we want to pack light? But this was important because I was like, we're going to get some amazing shots. We're going to fly around the Old Man of Storr. We're going to fly and see these unbelievable fairy pools and all of these beautiful things in nature. And I was really looking forward to hiking with the drone and all that. So when we get there, we have one full day. That's all we have. And we get to the first location, which is the highlight, the one I was really looking forward to. It's this, you hike up to this peak, and you have these sharp, jagged cliffs and rock formations that are very unique. Never seen anything like it, and very excited for that. We walked up, and I had some high expectations for this place, right? I have been doing a lot of research for months before this trip to make sure that I even got a spreadsheet itinerary to make sure that we're on it and we can make sure that we get to each point. I even calculated out ahead of time the Google Maps on how far. What's up, Maddie Moss? How is Albuquerque, by the way? You're in Albuquerque and I'm not. That's kind of crazy. So, you got to let me know if you've gone to any Mexican restaurants so far. Once I get back, I will be sure to give you some good recommendations and take you to some places. But until then, I'm talking right now about our experience in Scotland over the past few days, in particular Isle of Skye, and how I had high expectations. And I wanted to share this as a lesson for myself, but if that lesson can help anybody else, great. But I had put some high expectations because I already had set that this was going to be the highlight of the trip. Couldn't wait. I even put it in the Google Maps how long it would take to get to each landmark, each hike, and I had the whole day calculated. I mean, probably way too organized. This was the organized side of me coming out, and the control freak of me coming out. But so we go and do this first hike, and when we go up, I got the drone slinged over my neck in the bag. I got the GoPro. I got all my toys, right? So Megan and I are hiking up. We get up to the point, and it is absolutely beautiful. We're looking at the rock. It's called the Old Man of Store, and I'll post some pictures after this. Absolutely breathtaking, beautiful. But by the time we got up there, the clouds had started to come in. The weather started to change and shift. The weather shifts very quickly in Scotland, all over the UK actually. And then it just starts howling. I mean, gale force winds, and it's just. I mean, I almost lost my hat a few times. I'm slipping all over the place. Almost took out Megan with a boulder. We were hiking, and I slipped. I stepped on a big boulder rock, and it was loose. Started rolling down the hill. Almost took her out. No casualties. Everybody was okay. But once we got to the top, it was too windy. I couldn't fly the drone. So we waited up there for a little while, probably longer than we were planning. Took some more pictures and video, and it really just sat there and embraced it, took it in, all the beauty, but couldn't fly the drone. So we ended up having to leave based on time. We got to get to the next landmark, and we had to leave without it. So there was a little feeling of disappointment, like a little FOMO. If anybody's ever experienced FOMO before, fear of missing out, I'm like, man, I missed out on this. Was what I was excited to really fly it around and get to see the Isle of Skye from a bird's eye view, and super excited about that. Now I'm bummed, and I'm like, how can I possibly be bummed right now? We just were in such a beautiful place, such a great hike, and it was absolutely breathtaking. And I had to, maybe in the drive or during the walk, I can't remember where, but I had to collect myself. I had to, one of our beast triggers is RESPA. I had to breathe, take a deep breath, really evaluate it, the situation. And I'm like, how could I possibly be disappointed? I mean, a few months ago, before Black Friday, I didn't even have it. I never even owned a drone. And, a couple of years ago or whatever, drones didn't even exist. I don't know when they started existing, but I never had that expectation of being able to use that, right? So then, because now I have this expectation, because now I have this, new toy of mine, now I have a level of disappointment when I can't use it. When before it even existed or before I even owned one, I would have never had that expectation, and I would have just enjoyed it for what it was. And it really was a great lesson in that moment for me to really get perspective on the things that were on our expectations. Yes, it's great that we have ambitions and we want to see things happen the way that we have them planned out, but so many times things don't go according to plan, right? The weather changes, the winds start to howl, and when you have these expectations set so high and you don't meet those expectations, now you feel like a failure. Now you feel a little disappointment, and your mood changes. And I swear, if I didn't right then reset and really evaluate and get a clear perspective on I might have wasted that whole day, which was the highlight of maybe one of the highlights of our trip. But I would have wasted that moment. I wouldn't have been present. And I gotta admit, I was feeling a little human for a while. I was feeling a little disappointed. And yes, Bill Sturley, what's going on? Bill was a guest on our show a while back, and Bill is great on this reset and reduce expectations. And that's exactly what I had to do. I know this is just a simple example, but I wanted to use something current, using something on my honeymoon, something where I had put a lot of expectations on it. But something so simple like that, you might lose a bit of that moment. You might lose a piece of today because you're sitting in that disappointment and that kind of frustration and whatever that may be. So when you get to that point where you can evaluate it truly for what it is, and then just enjoy it for how it happens. Greatness can show up in any way, right? That's what Aloha Friday is all about, is greatness made casual. It doesn't have to be exactly how you thought it looked. The definition of greatness doesn't have to be just one answer. It can show up in many different ways. And I gotta say, when we got to some different viewpoints, the clouds cleared up for a little bit, just a little bit of light, and it was just absolutely beautiful. We got some great, I was present, I was able to really embrace it. And then we got to even another point, Neast Point, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a lighthouse, and it's absolutely beautiful view. But we had the most gale force winds. I mean, it was probably a step below hurricane level. I literally thought I was going to blow off over the cliff. And we decided to hike through it, battle the elements, and the rain was sideways to where it even hurt. Each drop, like hitting your face, actually like stung. Like it was like that hard of wind. And again, I had this vision in doing all the research. I had the picture all laid out. It's sunny. It's a beautiful green hillside on the cliffs, and the water's calm and all this stuff. And it just wasn't that at all. It was completely sideways wind. It was rough waters, and it was a totally different experience than I was expecting. But because, like Bill said right there, is I reset, I reduced expectations, just allowed it, to happen however it happened. It was going to be beautiful either way. And because of that, we had some fun. My wife and I, battling through the elements. And I'll tell you, that's something that we'll probably remember more so than just having this perfect scene that we take a picture and then go back to our car. Like, we battled through the elements together. We kind of raced through it. We made it fun, and we just took a whole new perspective on something that I might have had higher expectations for earlier on. You can't control the weather. You can't control so many factors in life that it takes perspective, and it takes resetting sometimes. It takes reducing those expectations because they can just get you out of your element. They get you into a different mindset, because that's the only thing you really can control is your attitude. Life is, we had a thing in Shanghai. It was the 10-90 rules. Life is 10% that what happens to you, 90% how you react to it. So I had to really tap into that and really live out what I preach. But it's so true in anything, even if it's a serious situation. Now, I'm talking about just a vacation. We're talking about just having fun. But in any situation, it's truly about your attitude and your perspective and how you perceive it, because that is what truly matters. You can't control everything. And I'm really talking to myself right now, because I sometimes can be a control freak, and I got to smack myself a little bit. My wife's giving me that, oh yeah. She's probably going through my spreadsheet right now, like, what? Why do you have a spreadsheet? Let's just have fun. But that's me. I'm trying to make sure we take advantage of every little moment that we have, but sometimes you got to let go of the plan, and you got to just allow something greater to show up. And I'm going into London with very little plan, and then we have Paris, and then we go back home. And I have literally like no plans for those. I have some highlights, but some things that we want to get to, but literally just going to take it as it comes. Let's see. Bill says, whenever the event begins is exactly the right time. Expectation reduction, number one. I love that. It really, what was I was going to have a quote, actually. I wasn't planning on doing a quote of the week, but there was something I wanted to talk about, and now it's slipping my mind. But it is all about that expectation. So I'm going to go the rest of the trip with just allowing it to happen and just kind of going with the flow, because that's usually the most fun that we have, is when we just wander, when we don't have any plan or direction. Now, yes, you want to have some direction, you want to have some goals and all that stuff when we're using this as a metaphor for life and life's challenges and all that stuff. But then assessing whether it's a failure or it's a success, that's a whole another topic. That's not really another topic, but that is all about perspective. That's all about your attitude. Is it a failure, or is it something that is going to propel me to the next thing? Is that something that I'm going to learn from, and that's going to be a stepping stone? Am I failing forward or am I failing backwards? That's what should really be the perspective on it, rather than just seeing yourself as a failure. Number 2, whoever shows are exactly the right people. Number 3, whatever happens is the only thing that could happen. Go with the flow. I love that. Jeez, Bill, I'm loving all of this. I appreciate you coming, you jumping on with us and joining. And I wish I could show you guys the view, but it's pitch dark tonight. It's late over here in London, and it's actually supposed to snow tonight, which I don't know if that's very common in London, but I think we might wake up to a white London tomorrow, which would be cool. Again, something that's totally unexpected. I was expecting sunny. You know, it's March. It should be spring, right? So I'm expecting decent weather, but we have a soccer game we're going to on Sunday, and that might be a game in the snow. Again, nothing that I was expecting, but I'm going with the flow. As my grandpa always said to my dad, really, and he passed it on to me, and he was a Navy chaplain, was in World War II, Iwo Jima, and he was a really great man, and he had a saying that was bend with bamboo. And I love that analogy because, bamboo, it doesn't break, it'll bend. But again, if you just bend, you just go with the flow. You don't have to be exact. You don't have to break. You just go with the flow and you bend. So I'm going to be bending. I'm going to be allowing it, to show up perfectly as it's supposed to happen, and really just enjoy and be present. So I wanted to share that on with everybody else. And I'm sure Dave is going to have a response video, since we can't go half side by side on this live video. But everybody for tuning in, I appreciate it. Bill, thank you for the insight. We're on the same page. I'm loving it, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of this trip. I'll be back shortly, back in the States. Next week, we will be back to our normal Aloha Fridays, where we are live. We're bringing in a guest, and we're going to be bringing greatness from all different walks of life. And again, greatness doesn't have to be so daunting. Greatness can be casual. Greatness can be however it shows up. I don't even have an Aloha shirt on today, but we're feeling the Aloha spirit, the Aloha vibe. I might not have a Mai Tai today. We had Guinness last week in Ireland, but now I guess London would be tea. So have a tea, and I'll see you guys all next week, and definitely stay tuned for some of the pictures we'll be sending. But anyways, with that, aloha. Thanks for tuning in.